Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of FitzRupee Cast featuring Dawn of War 2 Retribution. Red-Rupee here with you once again, calling the shots for you as always, and as you can see, we are looking at the famous waterfalls of Green Tooth Gorge. I've got a great one-on-one Elite Mod game here for you once again. You guys have been clamoring for more Elite Mod, and I am inclined to oblige. Of course, we don't have any Grey Knights tonight. They'll be coming soon tonight. We have Mr. Penny Flame on the blue side, rounding out his nice gold Force Commander with a bright yellow color scheme as well. As the Space Marine Force Commander, Penny Flame also goes as Codex. You may have seen him around, always in the Elite Mod chat. And then we have the famous Lindonin as the Eldar Farseer. So let's go ahead, get this game on the road. Farseer and Force Commander, both pretty fierce commanders when it comes down to it. Both kind of excel in supporting melee troops. You always see the Farseer running around with their Banshees, and early on you see the Force Commander coming out with his Assault Space Marines and breaking lines all over the place. So seeing standard builds come out, of course we're going to see Banshees from Lindonin. It's very uncommon to see Eldar play without Banshees against Space Marine, and I feel like you really need it, especially against Force Commander and Apothecary, to really engage in melee. I don't know, against everything you really need some Banshees against Space Marine. They're just too good not to have that power melee shredding through all the heavy armor that Space Marine can bring onto the field, and with the Farseer, all her various war gear and support abilities just work so well with Banshees. Penny Flame bringing on a secondary scout squad. In the meantime, everyone just backcapping. Looks like Codex is going to be heading into the middle with the Force Commander looking for trouble, going for that victory point and trying to keep that VP bleed away early. The first skirmish happening over here. Scouts on Guardians, or of course in the Elite Mod they are Dire Avengers. Looks like they're heading into the garrison. That's not a good spot. You can see right away Lindonin chose to go for the battle equipment aspect of Avenger, now called on the Elite Mod. I always get that confused going between the two game modes, between Elite Mod and Retail. But those scouts are going to be needing to get out of there. As soon as he sees that pop, Codex pulls those scouts out of the building. Scouts are going to have to dance around and try to dodge this grenade while the Force Commander engages them and tries to take out a couple models. Looks like the grenade toss goes down and the scouts dodge it. Going to cost a couple Dire Avengers for Mr. Lindonin. Lindonin does have his Farseer back here, decapping the back line wreck points of Codex. Banshees heading in here, but they're not going to be able to deal with both the Force Commander and Tactical Marines. Tactical Marines, if they get a good volley in before Banshees, can actually beat vanilla Banshees if they're unupgraded in melee. Of course, it's very risky. It always is risky whenever you're engaging in melee with another squad that has higher melee skill than you. So if the Banshees get a couple lucky knockbacks, it could be the end of your Tactical Marines. So you really don't want to depend on that at all. But of course, with the Force Commander there, that was going to be no contest. Farseer of Lindonin gets the 2 wreck points back here captured. And in the meantime, Codex is going on the offensive on his side of the map. Force Commander moving in the center with the Guardians weapon team coming onto the field for Mr. Lindonin. Pretty obvious choice there. Probably see a second Guardians weapons team. I feel like with the garrisons on this map and almost definitely seeing Assault Space Marines from a Force Commander against Eldar, you really want to have the double shurikens here. You can really support that well. Farseer getting a little brazen there and deciding to fall back there in the last second of that engagement, trying to approach the Space Marines, but getting forced off from some focus fire from Tax and Scouts. In the meantime, this side of the map still in the hands of Lindonin. Lindonin not letting anything slide here, and he has great positions with these Dire Avengers. If he can get those Banshees over here to engage something and force something to retreat, that's an easy grenade wipe on either of these scout squads. But it looks like he knows there's too much support coming in, decides to fall back over here, and surprisingly enough, Mr. Codex is still sitting at 500 VPs. Normally early game, you see a Space Marine falling behind in map control against Eldar, but Lindonin doesn't really have too many squads on the field, only has the 1 Guardian squad for capping. Normally you see 2 Guardians and Banshee, but he went straight for the Shuriken weapons team, which that's what kind of clues me into that he'll be looking for a second weapons team there. Good micro grenade dodging going on over here on this left VP constantly between the Scouts upgraded with Sarges and the Dire Avengers upgraded with their aspect of Avenger. Banshees now upgraded also with their aspect, which gives them, of course, their fleet of foot and Banshee battle cry abilities, but they're not going to be able to deal with all of this over here. Shuriken weapon trying to get set up and getting flanked on two sides right now. Banshees drop their scream and get out of there. A quick suppression to make sure those Assault Space Marines can't pursue and knock off any additional models. Dire Avengers still trying to find a good firing position for all this stuff charging in against them. Space Marine force being pretty brutal. Drop a point-blank grenade at their feet, hit the retreat, did a little damage, minor to the Assault Space Marines. But now the Farseer is trying to get some attacks off, got knocked down by a special attack from the Force Commander, very low, not many HP left, and goes down. A little trick that Tex mentioned a few casts back is whenever you have a melee unit in a pile like this, always attack the lower melee skill unit. If that Farseer had been attacking the scouts, perhaps she had gotten another special attack off and gotten out of there. But the Force Commander did get a special on her and managed to take her out. So that's an early loss for Lindonin. And the two Shurikens were on the field here, but they were set up right next to each other. One assault jump did manage to negate both platforms, and that's never what you want to see happen. You really need to get out here quick, and Penny Flame is now in a perfect position to take out this power farm. He has flamers on the field. Scouts were over here, decided to fall back. Or actually, no, they went down, didn't they? He's getting a second scout squad. There was a scout squad over here, but it had to retreat through Banshees, it looks like, and that scout squad went down. It had fallen into that bunker, but that was not a good choice. Assault Marines and everything moving in on this power farm of Lindonin right now. Again, these two Shurikens just not being as effective as they need to be, getting knocked back and beaten up by these Assault Space Marines, and now they're just going to be able to walk over and get the second platform. And really, all of these early engagements have just been going to Penny Flame. Penny Flame not really losing much of anything so far. Lost that scout squad, but hasn't lost, I don't think, any TACs or Assault Space Marines. Of course, that's about to change as the TACs are engaged in melee. Of course, those Banshees are in a precarious spot. One of the Tactical Marines goes down just as the Banshees retreat, but again, the Assault Jump comes in. Might be taking out that Shuriken Weapons team, down to 1 HP. It just barely gets away as the Shuriken, the base defense Shuriken there, suppresses those Assault Space Marines in the nick of time. Because even a shot or two from their sidearms would have finished off that Shuriken Weapons team. Farseer doing a good job of harassing, though. Penny Flame, or Codex rather, whatever he's choosing to go by this game, managed to do some damage, but didn't take out too much in the ways of power. One Assault Marine went down, and I think one TAC. So all things considered, a pretty solid push. Lindonin did a great job of making sure that whole farm didn't go down, but if he had positioned his Shurikens a little better, I feel like he could have saved at least one more of those generators and probably cut his losses and pushed Penny Flame back a little sooner. So Armor of Alacrity on the Force Commander, making him a little quick. You can see how quickly he's dashing around right there. And choosing to engage these Dire Avengers once again. And as you can see, Penny Flame's just in great position right now, just pretty propitious as far as this game goes so far. He's in both the tech lead and the VP lead, hasn't lost a single VP lead, and I know that's kind of redundant to say that that's the position you want to be in, but most races kind of need to be in that position as they go into Tier 2. You need to be ahead in VPs and you need to be ahead in tech. Not so much with Space Marine. Space Marine, you kind of have a chance to come back from VPs so long as you're keeping up in tech, because Space Marine, of course, comes out a lot stronger in Tier 2 and Tier 3 than some of the other racers. So a lot of times in Tier 1, Space Marine will have to cede some map control to hold on to their tech and defend their power front. Really what Penny Flame really needs to do is just get these Shurikens set up and get those to negate the Assault Space Marine. Farseer gets pushed back, just narrowly getting out of there. And again, the Shuriken out here, without the support of the second platform, is just going to get pushed right off of the field as soon as the Assault Space Marines move in. And really, Lindonin's just kind of not been able to pull his forces together for a good push against the Space Marines. The Space Marines have just been rocking his front line with the Assault Jump every time it gets encountered. It looks like the Shuriken, the secondary Shuriken, was over here capping when that engagement went down, so that was just bad positioning by Lindonin. with Eldar against Space Marine, you kind of want to spread out and take as much map as you can and force the Space Marine to react, and then kind of condense your forces and bring everything back out when you see where the Space Marine's going and force them off the field. We really need to use that Eldar mobility to your advantage. And so far, Lindonin engaged in choosing to buy both shurikens, but really just hasn't had a single setup with those shurikens where it's worked out for them. Some more grenade dodging going back and forth. I feel like that's all we've been seeing on this side of the map. Another assault on Lindonin's power farm coming in here. The second shuriken's setting up, but the assaults haven't even jumped once yet, so they're just going to be able to get right on top of that, pushing it back right now. First shuriken has to retreat as everything closes in, all the range damage coming down. Those attacks probably going to finish off that power farm as the scouts decap it. And it's just not looking too good for Lindonin. He's bringing some warp spiders onto the field, which will certainly help get back the map control and negate these scouts. But really his main problem is the Force Commander and the Assault Space Marines. Force Commander gets locked down there by 2 Shuriken weapon teams suppressing him, doing some pretty severe damage, but it has cost Lindonin his entire farm. In the meantime, Penny Flame way up here with tons of resources. He needs to bring something tier 2 out here right now. He's got both of his scout squads upgraded with Sarges and grenades, of course. Dire Avengers completely upgraded over here with their Exarch. And scouts once again coming over, trying to get a good grenade. So it looks like they tried to grenade the Banshees as well, but the Farseer threw herself on it to save her sisters. Back on this side of the map, on the left VP, Assault Space Marines came in to cause some trouble and finally push off these Dire Avengers so Codex can take the VP. Penny Flame finally bringing some tier 2 tech onto the field in the form of a Librarian. I honestly feel like a better choice right now would be a Razorback. The Librarian not as effective against Eldar as they are against Space Marine and Chaos Space Marine. Of course, Smite does crazy damage to those heavy armored units. Overall, though, I feel like the Razorback would just be a better choice. The only really counter Lindonin has is the Haywire Grenade, and then sending Banshees in once they get their Exarch, which they are upgraded with now, to finish off the Razor. But with all the melee support that Codex does have, that wouldn't be an easy feat. Force Commander also upgraded with the Teleporter pack, so now perfectly equipped to deal with the double shurikens. But of course, Lindonin, I feel like, has just been being too aggressive using these shurikens to cap points when he just needs to have those set up. But of course, with both the Teleporter pack and the Assault Jump, 2 shurikens isn't going to be anywhere near as much of a problem as it was previously for Mr. Codex over there. Of course, the Librarian will be able to get the Veil of or the Tome of Time, which you can see he has upgraded with, and make either the Assault Space Marines or the Force Commanders very quick, and probably not even really kiteable by the Warp Spiders, as they are so fast once they get that spell cast on them that even a short-range warp isn't going to make too much of a difference. Couple warp gates going up here now. You can see one going up over here, and there's one right outside the base there. So probably going to be seeing some Farseer trickery here soon. Unfortunately, there's 2 Scout Sarges on the field, so he might be able to spot those. Let's see. Yeah, here's the problem. With these warp gates, when you know Scout Sarges are on the field, you need to make sure you place these warp gates maybe a little further from any points that you expect scouts to be capping. Because, yeah, here come Flamer attacks. They're going to take that right back down. You want to make sure you put the warp gates somewhere far away from points back in the corners there. That way they're not easily spotted, and you really make your opponent try to have to search for them and waste time running around the map trying to take out your warp gates. Retreat grenade going off, not quite hitting the target and knocking some Banshees down. And a Razorback is on the field now. Penny Flame had the resources for both a Librarian and a Razorback. So we're going to have to see how that works out for him. 420 to 239. Lindonin's still pretty far behind in both tech and map control right now. Assault Marines jumping in, but gonna have to deal with lots of Banshees and Warp Spires. Merciless Strike knocking everything over, combined with a Smite, but the Farseer negates it with her Spirit Stone heal right there. Unfortunately, oh no, just before Levitation Field goes down, and wow, negates all of Codex's army here suddenly. Banshee's still not in any position to finish off that Razorback, but a combined use of Levitation Field and that Haywire Grenade pretty much stopped Codex in his tracks. Altark drop, not really hitting anything in particular, just using a big grenade spread, I guess, just trying to get that Altark out there as quickly as possible, and maybe drop a couple grenades in retreat in case the Assault Marines had panicked and tried to get out of there. They are quite low after the melee there with the Banshees, but it didn't make too much of a difference. So Lindonin looking kind of rough here, losing that power farm once again. We've got another warp gate over here, and see, again, this is just too close to the point. The scouts can see that, and he knows that gate's there already, so he's probably going to go take that out pretty soon here. That Razorback, I'm surprised to see it so far up. There goes the Haywire Grenade. Banshee's going to finish that off without any issue. There's no support for this Razorback. That's very unfortunate. It looks like Penny Flame did buy a second one, though. I'm not sure if that was an Overwatch mistake or what. It is going to finish off that warp gate over here. Razorback against Eldar, I feel like you really want to have the extra armor upgrade, because that extra armor upgrade is often just enough to save your Razorback if it takes a Haywire Grenade and gets pursued by Banshees. That extra HP can make just enough difference to keep your Razorback up in the face of all that and buy you a little time to get out of there. It was a little sloppy for Penny Flame to have lost that, but now we can see Penny Flame. Oh no! Force Commander teleports in, takes a face full of Shuriken and Warp Spider fire, and goes down on retreat. A little bit too brazen there. Another nice heal from the Spirit Stones from the Farseer. Warp Spider's trying to do more damage while they can, and Farseer's trying to get in here and do something to the scouts and techs. Penny Flame taking quite a few losses there. Lost a couple of Salt Space Marines on retreat, and now constantly reinforcing scouts as he fights these Warp Spiders. One Warp Spider did go down, but I think 3 or 4 scouts died right there in that engagement, so that's pretty wreck intensive. Penny Flame, after losing that Razorback, kind of on level playing field here with Lindonin now. 379 to 191. Lindonin still struggling to get any sort of solid VP hold here. Scout's still decapping his backline constantly. Taking a little fire from these Dire Avengers, though. Doesn't look like he's quite paying attention. Maybe just going for that quick decap and hoping he can get them out of there. He does retreat. Razorback, Tax, Assaults, and Librarian all moving in. But we see here comes the sneaky Farseer push there. There's no scouts over here to spot any of this, and suddenly the Space Marines are in a dire situation. Haywire goes down on the Razorback. It's completely disabled as the Shuriken moves out to reset up. There goes a perfect Healing Stones from the Farseer. Levitation Field goes down, negates the Librarian as the Razorback falls. Attack goes down to the Banshees, and suddenly Lindonin flips this right around in a reciprocal push right here, taking out a second Razorback. Penny Flame probably should have just gone for tier 3. Oh, and the scouts blowing apart some Warp Spiders. You see one lone dead Warp Spider there from that explosive shot, and some combined fire from those 3 scout shotguns. 177 to 379. Scouts going into the Death Trap cliffside here that the first squad died from. Penny Flame not choosing to learn from his mistakes. There aren't any Dire Avengers around at the moment, though, to drop a grenade in there, and the Banshees are, again, out here by themselves, getting forced off the map. Without any warp gates off, you really want to try to minimize your retreating as much as possible. A nice grenade going down over here, taking out a couple scouts and leaving the lone Sergeant to escape there. That's all I've been seeing on the left side victory point, is just those scouts and Dire Avengers tossing grenades at each other. Both players trying to stretch the other's micro and really get a sneaky grenade. Oh man, and the Shuriken gets its volley off just in time as the Tax were closing in with the Flamer, trying to burn them out of that garrison. Warp Spiders warping all around. And Penny Flame's suddenly starting to take lots of losses here. Been losing attack and an Assault Marine or 2 in every single push here, going a very expensive tier 2. The Librarian, 2 Razorbacks, Sarges on both of his units, and some Force Commander upgrades, both very expensive. It's at least a couple hundred power he's spent in tier 2 here, when he should probably have tried to push into tier 3 and bring some Terminators or a Predator out onto the field and really put the pressure on Lindonin. Lindonin made short work of those Razorbacks Penny Flame really should have invested in some armor and been a little more careful with them. That one cloak attack from the Farseer army really made a big difference in that initial push that kind of brought Lindonin back into the game. War Spider's constantly harassing these scouts, and that's exactly what you want to do with them, is push the map, keep those capping squads at bay, and then be able to warp them back to the main engagement as necessary. Big push coming in, all the big stuff over here from the Space Marine army. Look at that swing, 2 swings from that Thunderhammer, and that is an obliterated Shuriken Cannon. That's the second Shuriken to go down, but Lindonin's bringing a Wraith Lord onto the field. All things considered, Penny Flame's not really ready to deal with that. He can certainly buy the upgrades to take it out, no problem, but he should be kind of trying to spend as little as he can to head into Tier 3, because this Eldar Tier 2 is finally starting to take its toll on Penny Flame.
We have lost a building to the enemy.
Scouts harassing the Altarch down here. She's probably just going to have to fall back. She does do so. She could have probably just jumped away there. It looks like she had the energy to do so. Yeah, I'm not sure if she just used that or not. But probably didn't have to retreat. Being down at VPs, you really want to minimize VP bleed as much as you can and not fall back whenever possible. Even though those Warp Spiders retreated as soon as the Assault Marines came down, you really have to hit that warp before they land, because that knockdown, with Warp Spiders being so frail, as you can see, cost a couple units, and that's no expensive, or no frugal reinforcements on Warp Spiders. They are very expensive, just slightly cheaper than Assault Space Marines. A nice dodge there of that grenade. I thought those Banshees were going to fall right down on top of it. Probably should have saved that shotgun blast for them, though. But those Banshees are in a tricky spot as there's plenty of ranged and the Assault Marines are moving in here. Gonna have to run through them to retreat. Luckily they get a nice knockdown attack and fall down as the merciless strike hits. But a Wraith Lord is on the field, a second Wraith Lord coming out. Penny Flame has nothing to deal with it. No rocket launcher, no power fist, no melt-a-bombs at all. Lindonin may have been keeping track and realized that Penny Flame had spent a pretty large amount of power to keep him in Tier 2, so not hesitating to bring a Walker out here. Normally at this stage in the game, I feel like you'd kind of not want to bring a Wraith Lord out because you'd know a Predator or Assault Terminator's on the field. But he probably had a feeling that Penny Flame at this point wasn't heading into Tier 3 anytime soon. It's always good to try to keep track of your power because those tech choices really should be influencing your decisions. You should be able to try to keep track of about where your opponent is in relation to yourself, and make your choices on unit composition based on that. In the meantime, Altarch upgraded with the Executioner weapon over here. Gonna be able to get that cap and then warp out of there. Although with the Warp Spiders coming in there, she may not need to. Scouts and Force Commander facing off against there. Warp Spiders getting out of there just in the nick of time, deciding they're not going to be able to finish up that Force Commander. 167 to 175, a 3 cap, however, for Mr. Lindonin, bringing this game around pretty severely. It was looking rough early on, but it looks like this Tier 2 has really played out into Lindonin's favor. Those 2 Razorbacks going down really kind of crippling Penny Flame's ability to hold map there. Another grenade going down on these scouts. It looks like he's not watching it either. And right in the middle of all 4 of those, takes out the scouts. The Sarge is the only one standing. Still no real anti-vehicle over here. Assault Marines jump in, kind of a bit too brazen though, it looks like, because there are Banshees, War Spiders, and still a Wraith Lord out here on the field. The Assault Marines are already pretty severely beaten up. Probably going to see an Emperor's Wrath, but the Haywire Grenade goes down before it goes off. 2 Assault Marines go down in one swing of the Wraith Lord right there. And there's only one more chance for Penny Flame to push out here. And it looks like instead he has gone ahead and thrown in the towel, as he just kind of realized he didn't even have the resources, if he had wanted to reinforce his injured scout squads and his Assault Space Marines. They were all down. Librarian was injured. By the time he had healed all this up and gotten back out here, the VPs would have ticked away to practically nothing. And if it came down to it, that Dreadnought probably would have been in trouble. It had been haywired. It may have recovered by now, but against the Wraith Lord and possibly these Banshees and the Farseer, there wasn't much going to be happening there. Of course, let's see. Gravity Blade does not do power melee. I thought it did, but I was mistaken. Saw the Levitation Field used excellently once that match, and a good Farseer Warp Gate push there as well. But other than that first use of the levitation field, didn't really see it make too much of an impact. But a great turnaround overall from Lindonin. Another great Elite Mod match. And I promise you there will be some Grey Knights coming next time I cover the Elite Mod Banshees. Once again, shredding Space Marines left and right. Always love to see that in the Eldar matches. Good uses of Banshees is the scariest thing you can encounter as a Space Marine player. Hope you guys enjoyed the game. Be sure to comment, subscribe, talk about the video, the game, the players, my commentary, whatever you want. I always appreciate it. And this is Red-Rupee. I'll catch you guys